Hey there, I just wanted to make a quick video here um, on my overall early experiences with my Begode T4. Um, I just kind of want to document the journey here, and I figured now was a good time to make the video. I haven't taken on a lot of crazy trails yet. I'm planning to get out to some of the really nice single track in our area soon to really push it. But I've taken it through a lot of smaller stuff, just not the big areas. I got the older plastic battery cases. I don't care what people say. I like the plastic battery cases because you save at least like 4 pounds, maybe even over 4 pounds, shaved off of the weight. So for me, weight is a big factor. I'm not super interested in the extreme because I'm a light rider. I don't really need the extreme. I've never needed more torque from any EUC ever, even coming from the 84 volt MSX, that had a high speed motor, was only 84 volts. That thing would take me up mountains, basically. I would lose traction on the wheel before I lost power or, what people say torque. So that's that. I picked this up from a local, someone local. It came with a lot of stuff on it. It has the Nylonove fairing system. It has the kinetic pads down here. Um, has the Nylonove pedals with the bite system. Not super big on the bite system because the way I like to have my pedals, I just can't have the pedals where they're not going to interfere. Um, with that, so I'm not really fond of this. I'm actually looking at maybe getting some Adam G pedals for this, so that way it's going to be just a little bit narrower. I want it to be a little bit narrower. I don't like this here. I've already had this these teeth get caught on some roots on some tight single track where the here in Pittsburgh we have a lot of stuff. The trail is flat. Right next to the trail, you have a hillside that's like right into it. So if you're riding flat straight up, T4 is a little bit wider than I'm used to with like my S18. So what happens is it uh, really pushes into that hillside, and I've had these teeth kind of grab a little bit. Not big on that. This bumper is pretty cool. I wish it was a little bit further out. This kickstand kind of interferes if you try to rest it on this like a kickstand. However, the front is excellent. So if you ever want to set it down, a lot of people complain, say, "Oh, T4 doesn't have a kickstand." Well, this is excellent. There's nothing better than this. Got these front bumpers here. They stick out just a little bit further than the headlights. You just turn it off. Super easy to do, natural to do, one-handed, and then this thing's not gonna, go anywhere. I've seen V12s fall over. I've seen EXNs fall over. I've seen the Master Pro fall over. I've seen the Master fall over. I've seen V11s fall over from, their flimsy kickstand. Yeah, I would rather have no kickstand than a flimsy kickstand because at least my wheel's not going to fall over. I got nothing against setting my wheel on its side. It's not going to do any more harm than I'm going to do to it on single track. Um, Stock knobby tire handles terrible on the street. Maybe not terrible. Maybe I'm a little bit too harsh. Um, I do a lot of like deep turns and stuff like that, and it's really hard to get it. Like I don't even know if you can really ride on these edge knobs. So pretty much the profile is super flat. It doesn't turn the greatest coming from a street tire. Just to show here real fast, I got the Michelin Pilot Street 2 on my EXN there, and it just handles so much better on street. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that this thing handles amazing on street. If you're used to a street tire, this is going to feel kind of whack, but this is my off-roading wheel, so this is, that's what I'm going to be using this for. So off-road, where this wheel is meant to be, excellent. I got no problem with it there. It eats up everything. This tire is massive. It's so meaty. It's just, compared to any other wheel that I've seen, even like the S22 and stuff like that, this tire is just, it has so much girth to it in terms of like the rim to the tire. You really gotta rack something to like damage this rim. And then even this profile, it's so thick, you know, it really is like at least 3 inches, maybe even bigger. So you got tons of traction. The tire is so big that realistically, even compared to my S18, which I, you know, I'm upgrading to this from the S18, it it feels the same. I'm gonna be honest with you. It feels exactly the same as, you know, that 18-inch outer diameter wheel. It's just heavier is all. It's heavier. The things I noticed coming from it is that it's heavier and that the pedals, you know, tip to tip is at least an inch or almost 2 inches wider. So it is wider side to side. Mounting it is a little bit weird because of the width to it. You really kind of got to straddle it and like step around it almost. Where like the S18 feels like it's just, it feels like, you know, you have like a thin piece of paper between your legs and you can just kind of like kick off and nothing's in the way. This is a little bit different. Ride height's excellent. Took the spacer out the bottom pretty much instantly so that way I get more ride height. Uh, Charlie handle's good. Talk about the suspension real fast. Stock shock. So I can't speak on how it is in the stock configuration. The guy I bought this from, it came with the Nylonove linkages. As you can see, those definitely are not the stock linkages in there. Um, they perform well. My problem just is in the shock itself. So I have this set all the way out. You can't take it out any further. The problem is that the damping and the rebound are both in this screw. The problem with that is that, say you're going to do like a, you know, slightly bigger drops and stuff like that, you definitely can turn this in, and then you know, it will be a little bit slower. It will be harder to bottom out, but the problem is that that's also massively affecting the rebound. So once you compress it, it'll also, you know, come back slower. And my issue is that even when you set this to maximum speed all the way out, if you compress it really fast off of a hard drop, or you like, say you go to preload to do a jump or something like that, and you want to catch air intentionally, like you're going to go into it and you really tuck, you put all that force and energy into it, and then you go to like unspring yourself and launch off the jump, it just doesn't want to send you pretty much, because even with this at all the way out, it's still like it goes in fast, but then it doesn't come out. It comes out like half as fast. Not a fan of that. I wish that, you know, I could set it however, or I wish that the rebound and the dampening were separate entities. On this, you know, I'm like I said, I'm light. Let's assume like 140 pounds or so. Everything all considered 150. I'm riding this at about 165 psi right now. Excellent. Can't with these linkages, I can't bottom it out. It just can't be done. I've taken it off, you know, 3-foot drops to flat, you know, straight to flat, no issues at all. Never had this bottom out. It doesn't even come close. This linkage system definitely makes it a lot more progressive. So that way it really does stiffen up as you get through the stroke of the shock. Supposedly this unlocks an extra, I don't even know what the site says, to be honest. I don't think that anyone really understands suspension. I think some of the guys that we have working on these are really starting to like get into the meat and potatoes of how the suspension geometry should be and how it works. So the Nylonove site says this unlocks an extra like 10 millimeters of travel or 20 millimeters of travel. I don't know if that's the shock travel. I'm not sure exactly what they mean by that. I think a lot of people were just kind of shoving these out the door, these linkages, and they were just kind of like changing it. You know, it wasn't hard to be better than the stock shocks, but I think we got a couple guys working on it that actually know what they're doing, and hopefully I want to try a either the Marty spring shock like the EXA, or I'll try the DNM 22 AR or whatever that is that people are trying. Mudguard, with these linkages, I put nuts on the inside because this mudguard kept coming loose. So I put lock nuts on the inside. That That's just to keep this on. This, it kept coming loose, and then these were stripping. Um, at least on one side, I definitely know it's fully stripped. So the nuts keep this thing on. No issues, don't get wet or anything like that. You can see that there is like a gap where some stuff does get into there, onto like the shock. So the shock gets a little bit dirty in there, but um, no real issues with this. I suppose this could be like a little bit bigger. I don't really understand this, to be honest, because there's two screws down there that hold this piece on. So why didn't they just extend this metal piece out? You know, it doesn't even have to go down or interfere with anything, because the shock could never hit it, because the shock doesn't really go beyond flat. So they could have just extended this metal piece out, and then you would almost not even really need, this. So or they could have like extended out and had it like bend a little bit. I'm not sure what the purpose of having like this gap here is. I might, finagle something together, because this is such a simple piece there to mess with. What else do I really have to say about it? I really like all this stuff that's on here. Easy one-handed operation. Don't mind the duct tape. I'm working on something. My legs rub a little bit. I had a real long day of riding one day, and it was really agitating my legs. I need to figure out something to reduce the friction of the pads here, where like the inside of my legs meets the pads, especially on like a hot day and you get all sweaty. It just kind of, I start getting like, I don't even want to say like rashes, like blisters and stuff like that. I've had it happen on other wheels too, so it's not like this is anything special. Headlights are okay. They're all right. They're not anything to write home about, but they're decent. I can't really complain too much. Like I said, I kind of want thinner pedals for the kind of riding and stuff that I do. Speed, 75%, 80%. I get beeps at like 32. So as long as you stay, around like 30 or so, but this is substantially faster than the S18 I'm coming from. I don't need speed on trails. You're never going to be going 30 on single track, and if you are, um, you don't really have much self-preservation in you at that point if you're trying to go those kind of speeds. Or, I don't like riding trails where you can go that fast, because that means that it's not technical. You're just riding fast on a gravel road. Seated, excellent. Got the crib tape on top. I want to expand it a little bit, actually, with some, let me show this, with some of, I got some of this stuff from Walmart, place of value. So this is like really nice foam. This is like a really nice kneeling pad, like $5. So I want to double layer this up, bunch of double-sided tape, and then this is nice because it's so bendy that it's going to conform to the shape of the seat. And I'm going to put it here just to raise it, like, give me an extra little bit of cushion. But riding seated on this thing has been excellent. No real issues. As for like bumps and stuff like that, the suspension works. I have it upped to, I had it lower around like 150 psi, and that was definitely like a um, comfier ride with more preload. I have it in more of like a sport configuration now, where there's really not a lot of preload on it, just to make it a little bit bouncier and more fun on purpose. No, it kind of defeats the purpose of suspension to an extent, but it is definitely more fun to ride, and it still eats the bumps and stuff like that. It still does well. If I top out the S18 suspension in comparison, and I air it up so that way it doesn't really have a lot of preload, it's way bouncier, but it doesn't really do anything for bumps. It's like riding a tall wheel without suspension. This, 165, 170, 175, this still eats up all the bumps. So, the progressive nature of this does work, whether that's the way Begode intended it or not. The initial little bit of travel, the there's a lot of leverage over the shock, so even if you have it at a high psi, it still will move and track the ground for about an inch or so of travel. So you get like some good tracking there, and then once you get beyond that, it starts to get really stiff. So steps and stuff like that, it's way better with the more air in the suspension. My only issue is, and I don't think I can really show it in there, but where the shock base connects to the two knuckles, they're the knuckles that it's down here. The sides of these, the inner A arms on these are thinner. They're I believe they're 4 millimeters, and then the outside is 6 millimeters. The stock ones are 5.5 millimeters all the way around. So if you have the inner and the outer going through each other like you do across these, it evens out. But if there's just the inners, like there is down there on that on the outside of those knuckles down there, there's a lot of slop. So you need about, you need two, like you need basically 1 millimeter of slop taken out. So you'd either, you could put 2.5 millimeter spacers on either side, little shims, to take some slop out of this. Because what happens is right now there's a lot of noise, and no, it's not from these. That's another thing I can talk about too. A lot of people are saying, oh, you have noise, it's the brass bushings and this, that, the other. I put those in all the way, hand tight, like just barely tight, and then I back them off a quarter turn. They're Loctited in place. I was having issues where they're backing out, and one of them actually fell out and I lost it, so I had to get another one. But so I put some little strips of Gorilla Tape, and then there's the upper ones too. Trust me, I did the upper ones too. Still making noise. It was, whenever I first got this thing, they were super loose, so it wasn't making a lot of noise. But whenever I got those back in, it was still making a lot of noise. Whenever you're like slowing down and you're braking, it really makes this like, it makes this like weird rattling sound. It sounds like a pating, like the like someone spitting into a spittoon, or like a like an M1 Garand or something like that. Whenever it's ejecting and it makes that pating sound, it sounds exactly like that. And I took all the air out of this, checked everything over. Everything is perfectly rock solid, but this whole thing with these Nylonove linkages just like shakes back and forth. And what's happening is whenever it presses down and it goes to press back up, the whole thing like rocks back and forth, and it makes this like pating sound whenever this shakes. And no, nothing's loose here. All of these bolts, I checked them, they're all as tight as they can be. And there's not really a ton of play or anything in these. You have it a little bit loose because you don't want there to be too much like stiction in this. So there is, there's an appropriate amount of play in some of this stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. So if you do have the Nylonove linkages, you might want to look into some spacers or something. But I'm not gonna fiddle with it. I had it mostly apart, but I'm gonna leave it alone for now. Try a coil shock after I get a couple more 100 miles on this thing. Then I'll make another update video, or if there is any big news I find. But I just wanted to talk about this thing, give my thoughts on it. I love it. Excellent wheel. I don't think that you really need the power or speed or anything of the Begode Extreme, the Ibex Super 134 volt T4. I think that wheel is good if you're going to be, riding trails. You only want to have a single wheel, but you want it to be like dual purpose, because that wheel is fast. So you could still rip that thing on streets. This thing here, inner city and stuff like that, in downtown, you can ride this with traffic there, but you're not going to ride through like suburban streets and stuff, because this thing can barely, you can go like 30 on it, but you're kind of already on the edge of it going 30. So yeah, this thing is pretty much like dedicated trail. If you need it for street or anything like that, then get the Ibex. If you do ride so that'd be like if you ride like 60-40 trail and street would be the Ibex. This I would say 80-20. And then if you need even more street, or you primarily ride street with a little bit of trail, then you'd be looking at the Master. I think the Master would be excellent there if you're riding 60% street, 40% trail. or 80% street, 20% trail. You could get the master then. So it's nice that there's kind of like a granularity, but there's so much overlap with these wheels. I mean, regardless, if you get them set up right, whether it's the T4, whether it's an S22, whether it's a master, it's going to be the extreme. They all are going to handle trails very similarly. Um, if you get the suspension on this setup correctly and you get good aftermarket linkages where you can they have ones now where you can kind of even flip the shock, and the shock will be mounted in this orientation instead of being mounted, like this, like shoved inside. And then you get something that looks very similar to the S22 suspension, so you can jump it and stuff like that. Yeah, no real issues with this. I don't need range and stuff like that, so why would I carry around, a couple extra, 500, 400, 600 extra watt hours of battery that I'm not even going to use? I could ride this thing on single track all day. Like I said, I'm light. I have no need for whatever, torque or power that people brag that the extreme is going to bring to the table. So yeah, I love it. That's really all I got to say. You got any questions or anything else like that, or you want to see any content or anything else about this wheel, let me know down in the comments. But that's it for now. Just wanted to ramble about my new wheel that I've ridden a couple 100 miles on. And no one's really talked about the Nylonove linkages. People don't talk a lot in depth about the suspension. You get like Marty making a video, that's about it. But all right,